here.
No doubt. So real.
Ah, human beings, what? Person, are you serious? Yes, absolutely. Good to see you. It's nice to meet you. Welcome aboard. Now, where am I gonna sit? Right here? I'm sure right up there. Okay. There we go.
That way you get it. You have room.
There we go.
We can't pass you.
Or no, I think maybe it's promoted.
Oh, books.
Haven't seen here. I've never seen him out places and he just mentioned those and complained. That's what I said.
Yes, okay, Commissioner, so just so you know, we are live streaming. That microphone out there is very sensitive.
Okay,
Just as a FYI, it will pick up side conversations. Connie, let us know after the HRC. So just so you know.
there we go. Yeah.
That was close.
Everybody's got to behave. No talking about applicants outside of the hearing.
Here we go. We got it.
That's today.
Now. Calm down. So I just saw Michael Pullman outside.
I did too.
Gosh.
I think good you are. I see you.
I know.
I know, it's something.
Yeah, he was like, I was.
Is the Wi-Fi to see public?
Yes, it's a little spotty. On the campus, everything is downloaded offline.
Okay. Perfect.
And if it's Italians, that means I messed up, but it should all be Victorians. So I went through them this way, I can reach over to get rid of the Italian, I'll go Victorian.
So like,
I know. This one's ready to run. Were you guys fully moving this?
it was the year before. We were just starting up because we moved into the new building. We used to be.
Open, Gay Street.
Okay.
But I think it's been 3 years that we've been over in this building, because we were over in this building when I started 2
Are you
years.
serious? See, I don't remember that.
Doesn't seem like it's been Bob.
Yeah, it's really weird because usually these are on. So you have like this kind of craziness going on behind you.
Right.
It's like
If those are broken,
already.
yeah, they may have been broken for the past couple of weeks. Maintenance is waiting to fix them. At least somebody's keeping an eye on them. It's like, it's been a while. And it's nice when they're open, because we've got the blackout curtains almost all the way down.
Do you have an extra piece of paper or something? Just- Perfect. Thank you.
We have one applicant. The applicants, there's times, so they were instructed to
Like
come
that.
10, 15
And I
minutes
worked for a
before.
wedding and then.
But if it's not, it's okay.
Oh, no, I find this one.
And then it takes a little longer, but it's just.
So I've never had anything like absolutely no anything.
Yeah. Kind of really popular, you know, like that, like.
Very fun.
It all.
Are we all set? All right, John, take us away.
So, again, guys, I'm going to take a standpoint, so this is really neat. So, all right, we want to call to order today's Victorian Village hearing. So, let's see, the next business meeting is going to be Wednesday, July 28th, 2021 at 12 noon. That will be an in-person meeting here, the same location,
Yes.
which will be 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204. So that's slightly different than what it used to be for some of us. reviewed. The next hearing will be Wednesday, August 11th, 2021 at 4 p.m. And that's going to be in the same location here, which is 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204. Just going to swear in staff. Okay, so is this you, Kimberly?
Yes.
Kimberly, do you attest to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Kimberly Bernard Sheehy, and yes, I do.
Yes, thank you. All right. Introduction of commissioners present. So kind of each commissioner can just, say your name. Nobody.
Jeffrey Isam, welcome to see you back.
J. Thomas Siwa.
Sean Connors. Awesome. We're ready to rock. Overview of hearing format. Kimberly and team, do you guys want to go through?
So this is similar to what we did with the online. The order of speaking was the city staff will present materials, the applicant will be sworn in and then asked to present any additional materials if applicable. Speakers are sworn in and provided 3 minutes to speak each. We should have a couple speakers for 2 different items at this hearing. And commissioners are to discuss the case and to ask questions as needed.
So, let's see here. Do we have a public forum?
No, not today.
So, do you want to touch on any of the COVID safe related items or is that something that is applicable?
So I'll read it over real quick. I think it's more intended if we have a full room, but it's recommended any person attending the meeting maintain a 6 feet social distance and wear face covering. Masks, disinfecting wipes, and hand sanitizers are available in entrance, and any person experiencing symptoms of COVID should not enter the building.
So with that, a motion to enter the staff approvals into the record.
Motion forwarded.
Is there a second? Second. Excellent. This together, so I'm so used to the cadence for your vote. So, well, easy enough. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Any opposed? So no. Motion. Is there approval for last month's meetings? We move into the record, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion at all? Yeah.
First.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the special meeting, these were from the May 26th special meeting. This was a meeting that I don't think I was president. So I think I was on the agenda, if I remember correctly, from last month, but unfortunately, we kind of think there were some team members that wasn't there, so we kind of switched it to this month. The team feel as though people really make a motion to approve those special meeting minutes. I think that was regarding 1135. Middle Avenue, trying to remember, there was one other project that kind of got bumped.
I'm fine.
Okay. So, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion. So we get to our first staff recommended applications. Kimberly, I have to turn it over to you. That's
Can
okay.
I just say one thing? I do that part, so.
Okay,
That's right before 6.
so on one.
So we are down to 5 seated commissioners. Unfortunately, Erin Maloney has resigned from the commission. She's moved to the East Coast, so she's no longer in Columbus to attend these hearings. So James Goodman and I are working with the Short Month Association to get 2 more people seated so we can finally be at full commissioner quorum.
Okay.
So that means 4 is 3 people. It's half plus 1.
That's fine. Okay. So we should be okay.
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to kind of get your consideration. It seems like we should be able to improve, but we'll see what.
Yes.
Okay. Excuse me.
Okay, so our first application is BB-21-07-016. This is for various locations along High Street from West Goodell Avenue to West Fifth Avenue. This application is to install banners on 16 short north light poles within the Italian Village Historic District and the Victorian Village Historic District. There will be 2 on each side of the street, so 32 banners in total. Each are going to be double face vinyl banners to measure 5 feet high by 2 feet 6 inches wide and to be hung on the existing aluminum poles. The bottom of the banners are to be secured by fiberglass, masked arm brackets, and stainless steel bands. Commissioners at the business meeting requested clarification if the images shown were the exact banners depicted. The applicant clarified that they were close, but there were going to be slight changes in what is in the material, it's the format. The banners are no longer going to be on the arches, they are going to be relocated to the light poles. Staff does recommend approval of the application with the condition that future banners be staff approvable items, so they wouldn't come back to the commission for each time they change out banners. Basis for recommendation is the short north design guidelines, signage, banner, and flag guidelines. And I will call our applicant up and
This is so different. Again, apologize because we're so used to now.
Bear with us.
Regarding remote, so things are a little bit different. So,
Hey, that's fine.
all right, so I guess I'll swear you in. So, do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
So, is there anything else to add?
No, I think Kimberly said it all. These are replacing the banners that were on the arches and those will be no more. We have beautiful new tall light poles in the district and we want to put banners on them. As Kimberly said, we'll probably be doing some holiday iteration and we will send those via an application, hopefully for staff approval. So if they ever change dramatically, we will send them to both commissions to see.
Any comments? No, any discussion?
No concern.
Thank you.
So,
Is there something? Some favor say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 2, this is for movement -21-07-017 for 16 West Poplar Avenue. Do we have our applicant present? If you want to come sit up here while I'm running through this. I don't want to read through the staff report if we don't have the applicant present, and it's a little weird. This application is to replace the awning to include the business name and cut white vinyl measuring 114 inches long by 11 inches high, and to install a 36-inch wide by 24-inch tall blade sign into approximately 6 square feet, 10 feet from the ground, and to install white cut vinyl on the entrance door measuring 24 inches wide by 17 inches tall. Commissioners at the business meeting expressed support for the proposed design. The sign needs to be installed into the mortar and not replacing the brick or the existing part where it needs to be retained and reused. Staff recommend approval of the application with the condition that the blade sign either uses the existing hardware or that the new hardware is installed into the mortar and not replace the brick. Basis for recommendation are the short north design guidelines, specifically the projecting blade sign guidelines and the awning sign guidelines.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Of course, yes.
Do you have anything to add?
I do not.
So any discussion amongst the team? There was a few options that were provided.
Yes.
Didn't know what you wanted to try to give.
A more
bit
specific?
Clarity on option 1, option 2, and option 3.
So it's going to be option 2 without the flag.
Further discussion at all?
That's why I walked out with my own concern.
Yeah, I'm not doing the flag. They said it wasn't allowed. So
I have no concerns, and I discussed it at the business meeting, so I'm glad to see someone going into this space.
thank
That's
you.
what you see.
Thank you.
So,
Second.
You got that.
Yes,
All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Love to.
Thank you.
Love to.
Option two didn't have a tag. So it's just like different things.
My ability to take one thing and talk something else does not exist, so.
Take your time, take your time.
Number 3 is number, as application VB 21 06 024. This is for 23 West Second Avenue. And if you want to come up while I'm reading through this, you're more than welcome to. But this project is, includes exterior building lighting and
Probably a little early. This one was supposed to do starting. She's, Jessica's here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking of an address.
Sorry.
I saw her and I was like, oh, wait, like, I think.
Yes, and the lighting is like. So.
Oh, sorry.
I thought maybe the agenda got changed.
It's a lot different.
It's very different in person.
This is for exterior building lighting, inclusive of lighting at building and residential entries and third floor terrace lighting. The proposed lighting is meant to complement the building design while still integrating into the neighborhood. Lighting includes up and down lighting, tape lighting, bulbs, etc. The minutes from the June 9th, 2021 hearing have been included for commissioner comments. Commissioners at the business meeting wanted to confirm that the application was only for the new build. The applicant did confirm that the lighting and landscaping for the historic building would be a separate application. Staff recommends approval of the application with any clarifications and modifications from the commission. Basis for recommendation is 3116.12, the standards for new construction.
So just, I think that what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to ask. And I wasn't doing that. It's past that.
please?
No problem, yes, sir. I'm supposed to ask the applicants if they can say their name and then swear you in.
Yes.
Because, again, it's not on the screen, so
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just trying to think about all. So, would you be able to say your name first?
Jessica Sharon.
Marion Perez.
Swear you in. So you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Awesome. So is there anything to add?
So I believe you were all at the June meeting, correct? Okay, I thought so. So we kept it very consistent. I think we wanted to pinpoint some areas of feedback. So we removed the illuminated ground level planters. I think we all agreed they're probably overkill. We changed the 7th floor terrace strip light, tube light from color changing to non-color changing. And then we included some photometrics. We wanted to show, you know, per, I can't remember,
Yeah, sure.
maybe Commissioner Conyers, it might have been your feedback, but we wanted to show a fully dark environment with the lighting. So what you're actually not seeing when you look at the photometrics is all the other ambient lighting coming from the community and then the project inside the building illuminating outside. But we did want to show what that lighting would look like. And Marion actually brought a sample.
Yeah.
It's not quite apples to apples, but since we're finally in person again, if anybody wanted to touch and feel that tube light, we're happy to pass it around and kind of explain the difference between the sample we brought and what ours will look like. But the opportunity to be in person presented this. So, yep. And then any questions you all have, we're happy to answer.
But there's a rendering also along with the photometrics on it.
Ah,
I'm sure
thank you.
it was- Yeah, so to show how bright it's actually going to look, and it's not a quantitative kind of look as to what it is.
It's after these, right?
Yes.
Mr. and Mrs. Wood, were you still interested in speaking on this?
Absolutely.
All right.
We could just, are they done with their presentation?
Yes.
We are, yes.
Yes. Normally we'd ask you to come up the microphone, the extra one's over there, or are we okay if they speak from their seat?
But I can hear him.
But I will leave it at your preference if you want to come forward.
I want to come forward.
Yeah.
All righty, let me move some stuff around over here.
What?
was, you can pay for and grab corners on the bills. That's-
I consider the table.
Well, I said everything else, but computer stuff,
Pulling out all the conflicts here, guys. Back in business.
but thank you, I forgot about
Then
this.
they don't have to look at my legs.
I'll let you two decide who's gonna speak first. Right, give me 1 second to pull up my timer.
I'm familiar with that.
All right.
Yes.
I'm gonna start when you start, so.
All right, so this project,
Excuse me, if I missed this. Are we going to say his name and
have
swear?
to swear me in.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
sure.
I do.
You said your name, sir.
My name is Bill Wood, 41 West Second Avenue.
Do you tell the truth or?
I will.
Yes, sir, thank you.
So this project that is 90 feet high, that is 15 feet from my house, is now going to be lighted up 24 hours a day. There is no building in the short north with exterior lighting like this that is on 24 hours a day. None, whether it's on High Street, but more importantly, this is off High Street. This is in the neighborhood. If I come to you and ask you to put up exterior lighting on my house, what are you going to tell me? You're going to say, no, what the heck do you want it for? Why do they have to have it? Just because they were allowed by the city of Columbus to put up neon lights that are up 24 hours a day at Gravity on West Broad Street? This is not Mardi Gras. This is not Bourbon Street. This is West Second Avenue and Price Avenue in Victorian Village. Lighting like this does not belong. It is nowhere in Victorian Village, no development has exterior lighting like this. This is your last chance to get anything on this project right. Don't let us down. Thank you.
Go ahead and say your name.
Lisa Wood, 41 West Second Avenue.
You tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, it's just lit up like a Christmas tree and it doesn't fit into the neighborhood at all. And I would like to point out, when the White Castle unit built the garage and they put those lights on top, the city came, even though you approved them, and had them taken down. So there's nothing about this that's correct and, very unfair to the neighborhood to have that much light coming through. That's all.
All right, so Commissioner discussion. So, I think that the applicants at least tried to address, most of the comments from this hearing. That's kind of outlined by Kimberly. So where do we want to start?
Can I make one comment really quick? I just wanted to address that. We're still under, because it is a non-residential, well, it's a residential building, but it's over 3 stories. So we're bound by the ASHRAE Energy Code, and the uplighting on the exterior of the building will be turned off between 12 and 6 because it is required by code to do so. I just wanted to add that in. And I do have a sample of the neon, the tape. It's not neon, it's white at the top. It is very small. If you wanted to see that and see how small it was, it's 9 story, like I said, it's, 8, 9 stories up, that it's going to look even smaller. So.
Make it relevant, then just go ahead and share it since you have it.
Okay.
And,
Sure.
And Marion, do you mind just explaining the difference between the samples you have and what's going on?
Yes. So this is particularly the tape that is outlining the top shape of the outline of the building, okay? So this is at the very top. When I got a sample from the manufacturer, they had it in red. It's not going to be red. It's going to be 3,500, I think is what is stated on the building. Is there power?
And some of these.
Yes.
And some
There's
upstairs.
one right up in.
Oh, right here, right here.
This could be true.
I'm not gonna be able to go too far.
You need help, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
You know, last time we were talking about diodes.
Here it is.
things of that nature.
Yeah, very, very tiny. It's not gonna be red. It's actually gonna be white, and I can show you the colors, 3,500, but this is the size of it. It's gonna be recessed in a channel along the side, the outside of the building and crisping lines.
I'm just gonna take a quick photo, so we have that in the file and on record. We do have the video, but I put
And
it.
what was the ASHRAE rule for lighting?
So the ASHRAE 90.1, there is an exterior lighting requirement. We're limited to how much lighting can actually go on the building, and we comply with what they have listed. We actually are required for any facade lighting to have it turned off between 12 and 6. All other exterior lighting at the entryways and so forth will have to dim anyway at between 12 and 6 as well as part of that requirement.
So just from a control standpoint, so just trying to break the lighting into maybe three different groups.
Okay.
The lighting at the base, that will dim, which is at the pedestrian walkways.
Correct. So the lighting at all the entryways, except for the gas lighting, because we cannot dim that. But the lighting, the down lights and the entryway lighting and all of that lighting will dim to 70% power between 12 and 6.
Lighting at the mid, which is,
The facade lighting, any up lighting at all will be turned off between 12 and 6.
so everything from the first floor up,
Correct.
turn off.
Will be turned off,
Totally.
except for this doesn't really comply with that facade, but it will be dimming at the top.
So everything, so you just mentioned that particular light itself,
No, the up lighting, the lights that are washing the facade up from the second floor up.
those would be turned off.
Correct.
And then
This is at the very top, the outline, and this will dim between 12 and 6.
That same 70%.
Correct, 70% power.
any other thoughts or comments or concerns from a discussion standpoint to try to work out?
Is there a reason strip light doesn't also turn on? Is that just stuff?
Just right now, it's because this light does not, because it's not at washing, it's not a facade light. So it's not required to.
Right now, we were responding to only the ASHRAE.
Correct, the energy code requirements. Yep,
Maximum wattage and the timing associated.
correct.
So would you consider that not piece being turned on?
Yeah,
Lighting not.
Mhm.
It's gonna choose
Mhm.
6%. Got a gas light.
Yep, yeah, I think that's reasonable between 12 and 6.
So top, totally off.
And we can do that via controls, right?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
it's controlled that way. It's just simply a programming issue because it's already wired that way,
Yep.
designed that way.
Mhm. We're willing to do that.
So these folks then later on change that, like, putting over that.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Can the facilities folks later on change, any amendment that we might make, if like turning off the top?
I mean, in theory, it can all be controlled and changed, but if we're gonna agree to it now, as long as. we
It
don't-
is a code violation if they do that.
The dimmable.
Seems like
Mhm.
sometimes we have a particular mark.
Mhm.
Obviously, we can't do a scale mark. So, I mean, to Kevin's point, is there a possibility, like, for instance, we did the 70%
Mm,
or this duration of time and it cuts off at this time, but it's 70% now.
I see. So if we're saying feels really bright,
That's correct.
yeah, I mean, we're willing to have that discussion and work with everybody, because we won't know, right, until it is built. And we want to especially be considerate of safety for our residents and those walking around, but also we don't want to drown out anybody around us. And yeah, so I think we're open to that too.
Okay.
And we can keep that
So it
flexible.
looks like I'm not ground level from the vendor. And tough to tell how far
Mhm,
that all of it.
mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just have a brief question for our two witnesses, the woods there. So you both generalized with respect to how much lighting this generally is, and it's not Bourbon Street. And so I'm curious if you have any specific recommendations with respect to the various 4 different tiers we've discussed. Sure. Yes.
So just as a note, this isn't typically a back and forth.
I just wanted to make sure in this instance that we'll understood.
Can I ask a question of the applicants?
Yes, sir, Mr. Wood. I think in this case, obviously, I think that we should be able to, obviously, I think that there's been at least some dialogue to hopefully kind of get to a resolution that satisfies both parties.
Mhm.
And taking into consideration, so I think it's warranted. Yes, sir.
And that's more so my reason.
Yes, sir.
Mm.
Mr. Sebo.
Okay, now, I don't know the lady that presented, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but you presented a red light, and you said this isn't the light that's gonna be 3,500.
Correct.
And with 3,500 Kelvin, are you talking Kelvin?
Yes, I am.
3,500 Kelvin is not white. 3,500 Kelvin is blue.
I have a sample if,
I'm a photographer, 3,500 Kelvin is blue. So the lighting is gonna be blue, it's not gonna be white. But, yeah, that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is that Victorian Village has been around for much longer than any of us have been around. My house has been around since 1896. It has no lighting on the outside of it. This building is intruding into the neighborhood. It is intruding into 3 houses on West Second Avenue. It abuts an apartment building that's between West Second and Price and intrudes into rentals that are along Price Avenue. None of them.
Mr. Wood, I completely understand that. I think that the question though is if we shouldn't have used another 3 minutes that kind of echo some of the information that was discussed before.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Let's try to make sure that we are focused on the dialogue between.
I don't think any lighting should be,
Okay.
simple as that. It doesn't fit in the neighborhood, never has, never will.
Okay.
Is that what you were asking?
That's what I was asking. So they've made a proposal with respect to the various things that they would like to do. And my interpretation of your comments is that they were quite generalized. So I was simply asking exactly that, is what is your alternative proposal here with respect to, opposing this proposal that they have? So you've answered my question, is that your recommendation is that none of this lighting be approved?
It shouldn't even be brought in front of you.
Okay, fair enough. So, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
And I do just want to address, because I probably missed the boat on this in our virtual meetings, but Marion is a lighting design consultant. So we did hire her because we knew this would be, we wanted to pay special care. We don't typically do that. So I apologize if I haven't made that clear.
Got it. That's everything I have.
Make a motion.
Motion to approve, and with the change for the top lighting to also follow the ASHRAE regulations. That's
Want to add any clarifications related to timing of what that ASHRAE looks like, just for the body?
Well, we should probably take up one more thing, because the ASHRAE is 7%. They said they would go along with the the top, the whole top of the building, up to the top, off from 12 to 6. And ASHRAE at the bottom, meaning 70%. So I think that's what.
Color changing, no color
No
changing.
color changing.
Clarification of the lighting, color temperature values that we clarified, I think, last meeting.
Mhm.
2700.
Mhm.
Some clarification. Do you accept those amendments as yet? But
It's,
is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you all in person.
Yep, thank you.
So moving on to number 4, yeah, 21-03-010B. This is for 1135 Mill Avenue. This application includes variances for the side yard to reduce the minimum side yard from 9 feet to 7 feet. And to reduce the so-called required setback from 5 feet to 3.5 feet. This also includes the parking, which 6 spaces are required, 2 are provided, and side yard 5 feet required for provided. This is also for new construction to construct a new 3-story, 2-family side-by-side townhouse and to construct a new 3-story single-family carriage house. I have included the minutes from the May 12th, 2021 Victorian Village hearing. The applicant did submit a 1922 sandboard map in his newspaper image of the dwelling, which both illustrate that the proposed dwelling is mapping matches the floor, happening hearing, and that documentation should also be included here. These standards for new construction state that new construction shall be made of brick when brick predominates in nearby structures. The surrounding street has predominantly brick-clad structures, though there are also frame structures. However, new construction should not be historicized, so a hardy siding may be more appropriate than brick in this case, especially with the original massing being recalled. Staff does recommend continuation of the application to allow for the applicant to take in consideration the previous commission comments, community comments, and HBO staff comments, as well as guidelines and city code prior to revising the drawings. And I did also want to call out that 4 separate emails were forwarded from citizens who sent in comments. I'm not going to read them all, but I know there was a little bit of worry that not everyone will get them in time. So I want to summarize a lot of the comments were about the setbacks. They did not in support of variances. They wanted brick for the lap siding. They did not find the proposed siding appropriate, and we wanted a higher level of details. And we do also have some speakers as well, but those come a little bit later on. So the basis for staff recommendation is 3116.12, the standards for new construction. Specifically, the building height, width, mass, and proportion affect the degree of compatibility between the new and the old. And where brick predominates in nearby structures, new construction shall be of brick. If frame predominates in nearby structures, then new construction should be of frame. Where vacant land predominates, brick shall be preferred. Also, with this are Victorian Village guidelines for new construction, including appropriate and not appropriate. I will hand this back with you.
Would you be able to state your name?
Here, Navarro.
Ingrid Navarro.
Bradley Blumenscheid.
Do you tell the truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Have anything to add?
I do.
Want
Do
me
you
to go
mind if
first?
I
Oh, go ahead.
start? 'Cause I
Yeah.
don't know. I wanted to quickly give a short introduction because we're finally here in person. And I think I wanted to just give a quick introduction to who we are, which
I think would help understand our perspective and our background. So Mike and I and our team make up the veteran-owned small business with over 12 years of experience, excuse me, I'm a little jittery, renovating and building homes in the short north. We have experience working with the historic commissions, and although, you know, it can be very time consuming and it can require a lot of significant work, we know the process that involves input from ourselves, the commission, and the neighborhood ultimately results in the final home that is the best for the neighborhood. We are also residents in the short north, and we know Neal Avenue's significance, which is why this is an incredible opportunity for our company to put our mark on that historic street. Just like any homeowner or business, we have to work within a designated budget, but please know that cost cutting or our design is not driven by cost cutting measures. Given the current environment with astronomical increases in supply costs, we would not be able to build, much less operate, if we had overpaid for the vacant lot several years ago. That's just addressing a previous comment that we keep hearing about, so we just wanted to get that out there. I have the following points on previous public comments, neighbors' concerns, and changes that we made after the commission input. The previous comment describing that the remaining lot should be a grand design. The design, we feel like it should not be held to a different standard because this is the last remaining lot on Neal Avenue. At the same time, we do care about the end result, and we want it to be a high quality home. And that is why we're designing the home to meet that goal. But to require the design of the home to be as grand as the north, for example, the north and the south home, is unrealistic, especially if you consider the original home that was there. With the photo that we submitted, you can see an example of that, and you can see that we are mimicking the current design mimics the original home that was there. The trees, there was neighbor concerns about the trees, and we did address that, and which we brought up in the last commission meeting. But I do just want to touch base on that we consulted a professional arborist, and we did reach out directly to the neighbor that had that concern. And I also would like to save the trees, but based on the facts that the arborist gave us, that was an unsafe thing to do. We are more than willing to replace any tree that we take down on our lot. And I did welcome for another arborist, a second arborist, to be called out by the neighbor if they would choose to do that. I haven't heard anything since then, and that's just over, I think, 2 months ago. And then based on the feedback from the commission, the carriage house, we altered the carriage house height by 5 feet, and we did reduce the carriage setback to 10 feet. Regarding the basement walkouts on both sides, we eliminated those. And then we did reduce the structure size, and we're only requesting a setback variance on the north side. In terms of details, we did make some changes with that and architectural changes, and I think Bradley's gonna go into those details. Bradley?
So a lot of the architectural comments of the main building last time focused around the front facade that faces Neal Avenue. So I went back and I revamped how the approach happens from the streets to mimic more of what the neighborhood feels like with similar sized buildings and similar porch configurations. I reconfigured the railing and the balustrade to add more detail and a little bit more pizzazz to the facade to help it fit better within the context. I shrunk down the building, as Ingrid said. So we were able to maintain 5 feet to the south of the property line, which meets code. But to get the bedrooms and so forth to work inside the structure, we needed an extra foot to the north. The existing south house is really close to the property line, so we felt it would be appropriate to maintain that 5-foot minimum setback there. And the north house is pretty far off the property line, so we took a foot off from there. As Ingrid said, we had moved the carriage house back. It was originally 20 feet off of the rear property line, and we moved it back to 10 feet to better line up with the adjacent carriage houses along the alley. If anybody's driven back there, it's pretty tight maneuvering, so to perfectly line it up with some of those other carriage houses didn't really make sense as far as vehicular maneuverability. We added some more detail around the roof line of the structure to mimic some other buildings that are in the area. And we took a closer look at that historic map to make sure that we were matching as much of the original massing and configuration as possible. Page A3.1 has some detailed sections through the front porch, through the columns. We've been able to size everything from standard trim work and so forth from local manufacturers. So what you see is what will actually be built.
Would you be able to try to help us with some of the detailing and changes that have been? I
Absolutely.
mean, I know you talked high level, but just big picture in terms of hitting the buttons and we were talking points from last time in terms of
Yeah.
comments from the neighborhood and such. That may help to us kind of outline that. Be the best drawing to talk from.
I think the drawing that's up right now would probably be the best.
Okay.
So before we had the north units, we had the door around the corner of the bump out. It was recommended that we make that front onto Neal Avenue. There was a jog in the walkway from the sidewalk into the porch. So we straightened that out and made it symmetrical about the front facade. The front facade was asymmetrical before. I've recentered it and added additional support columns for the porch railing. A lot of the dental work and so forth was already there, but we refocused on how we could make this look a little more symmetrical to match similar designs of the neighborhood.
Yes. I have Anna Whitman and Barbara Warwick. I will let you two decide which one would like to go first.
Before I start, Official Stephen, I just wanted to say that we had 4 neighbors prepared to testify, speak to you today. They were prepared to do it by video. 3 of them are out of the state, and one's going through some medical procedures, so they were not able to make their appearances. Barbara and I are the only 2 prepared to do that, and we're limited to 3 minutes. And it's really hard to address some of these things within 3 minutes. They're given unlimited time to talk to you. Now, I have a statement which I will make, but I would love to respond directly to some of their questions, but I can't do both. If there's an opportunity to respond to their questions after my statement, I would love to do that.
Possibly. Let's go ahead and start with 3
Well,
minutes.
I don't want to start opening a dialogue.
I agree, because we haven't historically
Right.
done that. It's just been.
Understand. We'll probably get into the swing of things. It's probably just better to go ahead and do 3 minutes right now and address it within the 3-minute presentation.
Can one of you address and then one of you leave comments? I mean, you have 2 here.
Well, Barbara's going to speak to one of the other person's comments.
And before you begin, I will put the commissioners on the spot. Did you guys get to read the emails I sent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, and so, and I'm sorry I opened up this can, but if we could just go back to the regular forum of have you announce your name, and then, he'll swear you in, and it's the same rules for everyone, just the fairness to everyone and keep the ball moving.
Thank you, Mr.
Ken Whiteman, 43-year resident of this historic
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Just go ahead and say your name and I'll swear you in and then you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes. Ken Whiteman,
Kim, do you accept, do you propose to tell the truth?
yes, sir.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm a 43-year resident of this historic neighborhood. 33 of those years as a realtor, almost exclusively here in this neighborhood, working with these historical homes. I've been involved in dozens of renovation projects for myself and for clients. Here we have a rare and unique opportunity, unique neighborhood here at Victorian Village. Spectacular architecture and character left to us by generations past and to be handed off to generations in the future. Our obligation is to treasure these monuments to our past, which are our homes, and to preserve the character of our neighborhood. Several of you are new to the commission. Several others have invested years serving the neighborhood in this capacity. And we who reside here all should share the goals of protecting the neighborhood from forces that do not share the goals of your mission statement. Your mission statement is to preserve, protect, and enhance the unique architectural features of the Victorian Village Historical District. And equally important to your consideration is that the city code dictates, and here I will quote, the commission, you shall consider, in addition to the other pertinent factors, the historical and architectural value and significant architectural style, general design, arrangement, texture, material, and color of the exterior architectural factors of other structures in the immediate neighborhood. Today, we're facing an ongoing struggle between those who want to preserve and protect this neighborhood and those who want to benefit from it financially. And you're facing the classic example of that today. Your role should not be that of an advisor to developers, or worse, as a negotiator between parties. You're the judges, and you're charged to protect the neighborhood. On Neal Avenue, we have an incredible block of some of the most spectacular brick homes, all in a row, with the one last remaining vacant lot in the middle of these treasures. And here comes the challenge from a for-profit developer who wants to develop something inconsistent with the surrounding homes, with materials that do not complement the neighborhood, and without the appropriate adornment or respect for the code requirements of the city that our neighboring homes have. And this abuse is just to keep the developer's costs down. The developer's costs should not be your concern. You need to make certain that any new development, I'm going to use the words again from your mission statement, preserve, protect, and enhance the unique architectural features of the Victorian Village Historical District. Thank you for the 3 minutes.
Yes, I was trying to get home to Bill Huffman sheet, since I didn't want to interrupt everyone. I'm just taking notes on my computer.
Sorry.
Commission, otherwise, once a slide shared, no one's in back.
Okay.
Also, can use that, but yes. Barbara, like, kind of, we'll get you sworn in.
And I do have this one question. Did I hear you say you had changed to a brick exterior?
No.
Okay. I thought I didn't say that. I'm sorry. My name is Barbara Wyrick. I'm a neighbor, and I'm also speaking on behalf of Lisa Morton, who's an adjacent neighbor, but was unable to attend due to a medical issue.
Do you give Jennifer's number too?
I did. We are opposing the applicant's proposal despite some of the minor modifications. We feel the commission's role is to ensure compliance with the historic preservation of the Victorian Village neighborhood by enforcing the rules set forth in city code. And it's the developer's job to show how they are harmed by following the code rather than asking for variances. The developer has not demonstrated any hardship and should not be granted variances that will significantly impact the immediate neighbors and the character of our block of Neal Avenue in the historic district. The only hardship would seem the developer seems to be trying to mitigate is not being able to maximize commercial financial gain they hope to achieve by operating an Airbnb hotel and event space. We as neighbors have all been held to the code. We've all complied accordingly. Please do not let a developer undermine our property values, enjoyment of our homes, the historic character of our street. The problem with the proposal that we have continues to be, number one, we were worried about the mature trees being cut down to make the proposed structures uncharacteristically close to the neighboring homes. Number two, the proposed duplex should be required to be all brick,
with other materials of higher quality as well, such as real wood and stone. And in the previous meetings, the commission seemed to say a wood structure might be acceptable, but only if the quality and architectural details were much more robust. And we feel the submitted revisions failed to show such improvement. So we continue to argue for an all brick structure keeping in keeping with the adjacent homes. Point number 3, the proposed carriage house we feel is inappropriate due to size, massing, and location. And we feel the developer should be required to have the same setback, size, and massing as the majority of the other structures on the alley. And the setback should not be increased in order to create a parking lot. In the revised plan, the carriage house still does not match the setback of the other structures, and no parking lot should be permitted to facilitate commercial business activity or the excessive occupancy of the property. We feel they can pay for the allowed number of resident and guest parking permits on the street, just like all the rest of us do. And number 4, this property is zoned 1 through 4 be only residential, but this developer is not a landlord in the business of operating residential rental properties, and their website makes this abundantly clear. So the objective, we feel, is to maximize return on investment by cramming and monetizing as much square footage onto the lot as possible for commercial usage. So to reiterate, this is the last vacant lot on Neal Avenue, arguably the most important street in the nationally designated historic district. And you have one chance to get this right by requiring the developer to adhere to the highest design, use, and construction standards in keeping with the adjacent single-family owner-occupied homes. We urge you to deny this request until the developer submits a more appropriate proposal. Thank you.
Yes.
Start.
Do you want to start there and then we can move down, or either way, and then we can pull together?
Do we want to talk about, do we want to break it down or just comment? You know, since it's not a conceptual, it's just, you know, obviously this is an application, so. Do you want to talk about the home and come back to the carriage house? Or pull it together in the end?
I think it should be broken down into 3 things. Front house, carriage house, program, setbacks.
I think we should start with Mr. Israel.
I mean, I can start, that's fine, we can branch out. So talking about it architecturally, okay? Massing is coming together. My question is I think in looking at this, almost all the windows, except the ones off the porch, need to be more in proportion with the building scale. So we have a house a brick house that was built on Neal, and we didn't address. It was suburban industrial windows. We expect those windows to be tall and thin, like most houses within the area. And that's all the way around. That's not just on the front. I think there's been improvements, but I think you still have to keep pushing it. That's the first thing. The second thing is I don't understand the roof line, the second peak. Why we have that, and what is the need for that additional height at the back of the building?
That's
Okay, let me give me 3 points. And then I think, as I'm looking at this, I think the 2 doors addressing Neal, that's a big improvement. But I really think the details on that porch, if it's gonna be wood, windows need to be increased. The details of the porch need to be increased. It really has to be dressed up. It looks too prescriptive, if you want to say that. So that's the architectural piece. The second piece is, from my perspective, is, and I know, it's sort of off limits, but I see this as a strict 2-family, which means 2 wonderful families live in this thing. And it looks like the program within this is much more than 2 families. And I think that that's sort of the loading piece, the setback piece, and a lot of these things I think should be addressed for us to move forward. And last but not least, it's good to hear that you want to be part of the neighborhood. It's good to hear that you're thinking about nature and replacing trees and stuff like that. But I don't think that this application is where it needs to be at this point.
Do you want to say anything about the backgrounds? This.
I think so we know we just had a recent application where the carriage houses were offset or pulled back, and we held the line on they need to maintain, like everyone else, those setbacks. So I would say the setback in the carriage house and sort of the program size of the carriage house is a little bit overscale for me. Yep.
Mr. Sullivan, do you want to go? Sure. Okay.
So I agree with a lot of what Jeff said. On the front elevation, the secondary gable. I also agree with, I've seen attic space or unoccupied third floor. I think there's a chance for room to spoil back in. Also to referencing one of the tallest on the also being a couple of feet under that would make this in terms of the mass and one of the more larger objects. Yeah, and the scale of the windows, I think would definitely help out with the proportionality of the elevation themselves. As we start going around. And I think we've kind of gone around in the carriage house itself for the height of the location. So bringing the height back down more in line with the other carriage houses that are on that tower. I know we talked briefly about 1 3-story ones back there, but most of the others are much lower than that. So I think both of the assets can kind of start to come down so that we could better fit into the neighborhood sort of nature itself.
Just kind of making sure to touch all 4 topics. So, did you want to say anything about the program? Related to just kind of the only item those, if there's any other comments related to that.
I don't really have any comments on the plans for the program. But I do kind of agree with Jeff. I happen to live in one of these houses that's 2 families.
Mr. Siegel.
So I had to start with Jeff, because I knew I'd have little to say after that. I agree that, with respect to, this is a drastic improvement, and appreciate, the dialogue that we've been having with respect to this project. One point of clarification or 2 points, the second floor there, are those doors or windows? The 2 that are above the doors on the first floor?
Doors, it's a
Those
separate.
are doors. And then on that original depiction, are those doors because the original version of this had doors? I can't tell by the first image you have.
Yeah, so they walk out onto the porch.
Okay.
It was a sun porch, and it's one of the very few sun porches in Victorian Village. There's only like,
Well,
I
actually,
think 4.
there's a sun porch, actually, 2 houses down, I believe,
Yeah, but,
to the south.
but in all of
The
Victorian
original.
Village, I could only find 4, and this house was one of the originals.
Okay, and that's why I asked. And then the second point, you mentioned reducing the carriage house by 5 feet. It originally was 3 floors, and now reducing that 5 feet will make it 2 floors, and that top windows are the attic.
Right.
Yeah, 2.5 stories, yes.
Yeah, so the one thing they said was to reduce it, and we did.
Right.
We actually, instead of actually have it in the attic, we actually, or have it in mass to that degree, we scaled it down and then put the 3rd floor inside the attic.
Okay, so it still will have a 3rd floor.
Right, but we brought that massing down, so it's actually the roof line is proportionate of what I believe Commissioner Decker was talking about, making it the same size as the other ones, not the ones to the south. That was a massive 3.5-story one. So we're in line with the other ones that are adjacent to the north.
Okay. And what truly is my last question, the unit that is to the south here, it's more west than the unit to the north. Is there a reason for that?
So the reason why is this house, this lot was reduced by 5 feet. I guess they came together and say, hey, we'll split this to the north and the south, or to the ends of the blocks. And so we went from 50 feet to 45 feet. The house to the south is actually only 2 feet away from the property line. So we try, so it's offset. So that's why they're saying like, you're close to my house. Like, no, the house is actually built close to the property. So we're trying to stay in line with the 5 feet setback for the property on the south side. But we have that additional 16 to 18 feet on the north side that we are asking just for a foot for a variance because we have that spacing.
Right, that's my clarification. That's everything. Thank you.
I was gonna say just one more thing on that. The previous owner of the vacant lot was the owner to the south side, and he's the one who, I believe, who split the lot. So he's the one that made that alteration.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Mr. Siebert, do you have any additional comments or thoughts?
That was it. Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'll just kind of do the same thing. Start with the front house. So completely agree. I think with my fellow commissioners in terms of advancement, such in terms of being able to try to balance the facade. I think the one thing that's kind of interesting from a proportion standpoint is, although the original image had a lot of merit, it's really hard. That was a single family home. So from its proportion in terms of, the application of taking a single family home and its image and its vision and so to speak, applying it to a 2-family kind of setup, completely understand, but I think the proportion of it, because it's a lot wider, so it just feels a little odd. So kind of working through and balancing that out, I think that there's still some work there. But I would challenge you to see if you can kind of slightly deviate to solve some of the problems versus relying specifically on the image. And I think that starts to get through the portions of the windows, things of that nature. So typically, I think the scale of the windows are broken up. It's a series of individual windows. There may be a need to gain some windows or a larger expression or something like that to kind of balance out the proportion. It's something that we talked last time about materials. It seems like materials, it's really tough and challenging to only address the palette of available materials through party products. So I think that the team and the neighborhood is asking if there's alternate products that may be available that opens that palette up to be able to balance out the detail that's needed. So versus just only utilizing, so to speak, the hardy kind of parts. That's the shake siding that's typical hardy, lap siding that's typical hardy. So in the end, this sort of speak nestles into, that fabric. So I think that's what the entire group is asking for, to kind of challenge that notion. I'm going to move to the back house. The back house, again, the scale of it still feels large in context. One of the items that may be helpful is being able to provide some sense of context with the adjacencies. Right now, we're going to keep saying this house is probably shorter or this carriage house is probably bigger. There's some relationship to that, almost similar how you address the long Mill Avenue facade. That may be helpful. Program, I completely agree. Maybe to solve some of these things, we need to sort of speak, kind of scale the program down that would allow these other elements to kind of, so to speak, fall into their kind of most appropriate spot. We deal with that a lot of commercial projects is program first, address the program. Well, I can't because I can't address the program and all of a sudden the massing can't resolve itself. So if we adjust the program, the massing will probably be able to resolve itself. So it's just they kind of work hand in hand. Setbacks, I would agree. I mean, setbacks of the carriage house, being able to pull that back. I think again, if we have a little bit more information on the setback and the relationship with those adjacent properties, it seems like that would make more sense to pull that back or pull the carriage house back towards the alley. And then at the same time, as far as the setbacks, it would be great if we could resolve some of the thickness or some of the width concern in terms of proportion, but being able to avoid any variance. That would be kind of a great problem solver. So I'm not sure if that's a possibility or not, but something to consider as you guys move forward. I did want to go back to materiality one time. So I think Mr. Sewell and myself had mentioned, wood and the necessary kind of detail and things like that. Obviously balancing that out, if we went brick, there's a certain less refinement to that material because that brick kind of holds it has that, I don't know, that sense of refinement in its own self. So just, I'm not sure if you can't, if the materials challenge you from a wood perspective, it will be interesting to just kind of maybe start that ad or start to evaluate this project as a brick facade project, because sooner or later, you're going to get to a point where you may not be able to resolve these things in wood frame or in wood in siding, the proportional items. But I wonder before you get too far off, what it would kind of feel like in terms of, just something to consider. So, that was just some thoughts. Anything else?
We've actually investigated it with brick, but because the thickness of the wall doubles on both sides, we would absolutely need variances for side yard setback to get any kind of livable space inside. So we've been trying to reduce the side yard setback variances as much as possible. We're only asking for 12 inches. But before we were asking for 2.5, 3 feet. We've scaled it back quite a bit. If we go to brick, we're going to be right back where we started.
So is there anything else? Seems like we're motion to continue.
Trim.
Do you guys want to take a look at some information that's here?
When he's on the detail, is it possible to trim in windows?
Yeah, can I get a clarification from Jeff? When you talk about detail along the Neil Avenue facade?
Speak up, please. We can't hear.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, when you, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
When you talk about detail along the porch, put a bit of detail in there, and at some point it just feels like too much ornament. We've put a lot of work into the trim work and proportions and the balustrade and so forth. So I'm just, the detail question has come up a few times, and we've continued to add and add and add more trim work. And at what point is it just a little redundant?
Or are you alluding to the window placements and the size? Or are you making comment
Like
also on the
trim?
trim?
I guess I'm looking to three things and
Okay.
try to be as clear as I can. The front porch, windows, transoms, got it. The second floor, the windows need to be engaged in and taller, thinner, as well as the windows all the way around. First floor and second. That's the vocabulary that's very, very common in houses of that scale and size. That's the first thing.
Sure.
The second thing is when you look at the trim, columns, I get it. Your balustrades, I get it. I think that the second floor is pretty prescriptive. I don't know whether you want to articulate so you get maybe a vision of two sides or something. Your first level, you got it. The second level, you don't got it. And I think it just needs a little articulation. Maybe the end ones are a little taller, and so we get something going on up there that is just a little bit more refined. Am I clear about that?
Mhm.
And then in looking to the back of the building, I think the back on these big houses is just as important as the front. And so I really don't see any transoms or articulation in the back that kind of makes it sing either. So it's almost like all the makeup's on the front, the rest of the house is just kind of put together. So I think when we're talking about those kind of detail and the scale of this house, those are the things that I'm talking about. And I think those are the things the neighbors are talking about, because if you look at front to back in their homes, you'll see that detail. That's,
Yeah.
those are the things.
We just want to be be very
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah, that's very clear.
We always go back and we're like, well, wait, and then we're doing things that we should not be
Very
doing. So
clear.
that's the only reason why
Very
we're
clear.
asking.
So hopefully I was clear on that.
Yes, thank you.
And if you guys
Do we
articulate.
comment on the roof,
I agree.
the roof line, why we did it, but we can
In
probably
terms
do
of
that.
trends too, like, I think you're using hardy to the parts to Commissioner Connor's point, taking a look at some more of the historic sizes, I think would help out some of those details, because I think they're a little bit grainier in terms of their square.
Yeah, it's just, unfortunately, the Hardy was so too restricted. Restricted in terms of, so it's always kind of balancing, because what happens is Hardy is really kind of geared towards a suburban product. And then that has a certain vocabulary. So how do you, take these or implement these particular products that are today's products, but not necessarily with the result of that vocabulary, but how do you get back to a vocabulary that's appropriate for the grandeur of this location? So I think that's the challenge, and I think that's what the neighborhood is asking for in that statement.
Okay. Yeah. Top of the wall section, it just feels very small.
So do you guys want
One quick point of clarification on the height of the fascia. Said it was aligning with the adjacent facades a little too closely because they're taller. That was kind of the point to help it blend in better with the height of the adjacent fascias. We did originally have it 18 inches lower.
And Commissioner Decker said it needs to be more in line with the north and south property.
Which we agree, because once we stretched this up, it actually looked a lot better and fit better within the context, the fascia height, which is where we landed at.
just a little bit about that too, is, that could help. That definitely, I'm kind of looking at both the fascia as well as base. So I think one of the grandeur things about these homes is their stance, and the materiality in that portion of the base that starts to kind of create that rhythm as you kind of carry up the facade. So I wouldn't necessarily only stretch one. I would actually look at just kind of, how do you articulate the base? What is that materiality? What is that forcing? Right now you've talked about, probably like a poured foundation. I don't think those are the solutions. Like looking at, stone, what's that stone portion or what's that, that height? And then mimicking that height, or at least carrying that rhythm and that proportion up. And I think you'll kind of find that sweet spot, so don't necessarily just look at the fascia as it relates to other properties. Start to look at those things that were at that time constraints, what are the proportions of certain things, that were masonry dimensions. Those things start to find their kind of comfortable spot, So,
Makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
And it's like fashion, it's like everything else, or a business. If I'm scaling a business and it's a 4-people business and I scale it up to 10, or I scale size 2 dress up to size 14, that little button line on a size 14 dress needs to be pulled up. So the proportion and the rhythm and everything. So this guy's kind of a little fat. So you might want to make him look a little taller by tweaking what it looks like. And those are the kind of things that I think we're talking about.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
No, it does.
I would say Jeffrey lost me with the dress.
So, yeah, we'll continue and we'll bring back what you guys, or what we talked about today.
I move to continue this application.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Great, thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
guys. Good luck. Thanks for working with us. Sorry.
I do have to leave the applicant for 617 Denison is here.
Are we okay with that? Was it because they are not here because of timing, or is it?
They were not here for other reasons,
Okay,
but
so that's,
I'm not, since they're not here, I'm going to suggest continuing the application in their absence. I have not received an updated drawing, and I believe we very much need that in order to approve it.
okay. So your motion, that's application BB 2107/018 number 5 for 617 Denison Avenue. Motion to continue.
So continue, so.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I'll continue to work with the applicant to get a little better scale than drawn, but it's got some examples. Okay, for that.
Okay.
So we will move on to number 6, which is VV 21-07 019. This is for 1101, 1103, and 1107 Highland Street. This application is to replace existing vinyl windows with new vinyl windows in the 1998 residence. Windows to be Endure EN600 series double hung with the same color frames and capping. Commissioners at the business meeting requested a physical example of the window be brought to the hearing, which I did see the large case, it is here. Additional photographs were also requested showing damage to the window. The homeowner did clarify there's a lot of fog in between the window pane, so it's a little bit difficult to see.
I was gonna say, why did you replace it already? Yeah.
Yeah, and HBO staff does recommend that the windows be chosen from the approved windows list. Vinyl windows are not encouraged. Staff recommends approval with the condition that the windows be chosen from the approved list. Basis for recommendation are the Victorian Village guidelines, windows indoors specifying what's appropriate and not appropriate. I'll let you swear in our applicant.
You want to say your name, sir?
Josh Whitmer with APCO.
You agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
You have anything to add, sir?
No, I think the application is pretty straightforward. It's their builder grade vinyl windows that were put in there in 1998. There is no architectural integrity to the inside. It's drywall returns. There's no jam returns, no casing, no nothing. On the outside is a simple metal trim capping on the outside of them. Again, they're trying to upgrade from a builder grade single hung window that's having seal failure sporadically throughout the house to a more energy efficient vinyl window that matches with what's in there right now.
Speak about anything related to, what the staff has recommended, there's probably some conversations or maybe some recommendations related.
Yeah, and I completely understand the historical value in maintaining that on older houses. This is unfortunately not an older house. Putting a wood window in this house would not match with the way that it looks from the outside. It was built around vinyl windows. And that's why the owners are wanting to move forward with the install of just swapping out vinyl for vinyl, because that's what's in there right now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I got some questions for staff.
I think they answered basically it's window failure, one.
Yeah.
Two, it's new construction. And so I think the question is do they engage in the options that were given? Or hold the line? I think that's where we are.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand too. That wasn't really my question. My question was, let's say, I have an approved window list. So, because back in the day, it was a situation where wood windows were very restricted. That has opened up, obviously. There's been a lot of test case, which has created that approved window list.
And solid.
It is solid, very solid. It has to do with sight lines, things of that nature, not necessarily only the wood into a masonry opening or something of that nature. So, which was very helpful as part of that analysis. So, is there a window or a series of windows on that list that would be able to fulfill?
So there are a number of windows. They're not just wood. You've got the aluminum clads. You do have one fiberglass one as well, but we do prefer the approved windows list go into all of the structures, whether new or old, because we cannot staff it with vinyl windows. And they've got some proportionality as well as material things, and I know all of the windows have come a long way from the approved windows list was put together when the house was built as well. But it was our preference that all the windows are replaced with windows.
So correct me if I'm wrong, if this application would have come in and picked one of those, it would just have been a window replacement, which would staff approved and we wouldn't be here. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yes.
So I think that's where we come from.
I guess the question would be, since we are not doing a pocket style replacement, we're actually doing a full frame replacement. Is that still not an option for the customers to use vinyl? Is vinyl just completely off the table, even though
I mean-
if they don't do anything, vinyl's gonna be there forever?
I think it is because what we have come so far with staff approvals and being able to, before we would have, before we would bicker back and forth and now we're to the point where those items are watertight. We can say, go do it, and we don't have to come back to say, well, now we tried this window and it failed.
Okay.
Now, so I think we really do have to stick with, there are options, they're not all wood windows. You have a fiberglass option, you have other ones. And I think really would be happy to guide you along with
Okay.
that, but I think that's what we really do have to stick.
Okay.
And I will note, the applicants, as we have today, are allowed to bring in other windows.
Absolutely, we're always open to products.
So I don't want to, necessarily say that door is shut, because it's not. The commission will entertain other options, and since it's here, does anybody want to look at the windows a little closer? Okay.
I'm good based on materiality too, so
Yeah.
even just the mistake where I think we would public script. So there have been some situations where maybe that model line that was maybe identified a year or two ago, that may have changed, and that has prompted us to kind of, things like we need to look at a different series because that model has changed or something of that nature, but. So what do we do? So.
You tell me.
Well, no, from an option standpoint, just what he could do is we could continue this.
Yes,
right?
so
And
to
then-
continue to allow to work with staff to choose a window from the approved windows list. Approving of conditions would be hard. Denials always kind of the worst case scenario. I think we'd rather work with our applicant as opposed to.
Yeah, just continue with the approved list, and then I will work with both of the homeowners that I'm working with are out of town right now. So when I get back in town, I will pass the word on to them, and then we will go from there.
Because Alteration that if you work with staff in the office and it's all particular, it just becomes does it become a staff approval? So, and then.
So we're not coming back here.
So since it was already in front of the commission, it's a little trickier. So, I mean, if you can approve it or continue it with caveat, if it was a condition, that way when it does get
Okay, we
approved,
can do
it
that.
doesn't have to come back through
Yeah.
here or get possibly just staff approval at the business meeting.
Would there be a motion to adopt staff's recommendation that we approve this application contingent on the applicant working with staff to select a window off of the approved window list?
So approved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for working with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing those in to.
Yeah.
What's that?
So it feels like-
Problem.
When we asked, we thought people would look at them and that looks to be very heavy.
It's not light.
Thank you, sir.
I had to take a break outside for a few minutes, so I wasn't sweating.
Promise I'm leaving.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you as well.
Alrighty, our next agenda item is number 7, which is EV-21-07-02. This is for 889 North High Street. This is to install a 30-inch diameter sign, which is 8 square feet, mounted to the existing steel canopy. The sign should have an opaque blue background with illuminated white leaf, text, and inset. The sign face or letters should not be illuminated. Yellow lighting would be appropriate with an pink letter raised up above the face with the light coming from behind it. Internal illumination is not appropriate. Signage should be installed into the mortar and not the face of the brick. Signage along the building is done either above the band or as a blade sign, so it goes into the commission. Should this signage be aligned with the rest of the existing, or is that different shape? Okay. Staff recommends continuing the application to allow for the applicant to design signage to better align with design guidelines. This is for recommendation, are the general guidelines. And wall sign guidelines.
Wait, state your name.
Jamie Oberschlag.
Agree to tell the truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Yeah.
No, we're happy to be here. We're happy to be to the point where we can put a sign up. Farah opened literally the day before the world shut down last March. I think Jason was open for 4 hours that day, sold one pair of blue jeans, and then closed for business for a few months. So it's been a long haul, and we've the lifeblood of retail is to have a sign, and he's had to get to a point where he's got enough revenue coming in to get there, and we're there. This circle logo is his. This is his branding, his logo. The indigo color has to do with the denim, and he's got an indigo couch, and it kind of pulls some of the outside of the inside of the store to the outside. His desire for internally illuminated was pulled off of Urban's Chop House and the Whiskey Bar that were just opened. Those had internally illuminated signs. So really, we're interested to hear your feedback and have a conversation and get this thing to a point where we can get a sign up and help people find his retail store.
Kimberly, would you be able to try to help us a little bit? Obviously, being very prescriptive is a lot of times we're being on staff in order to kind of maintain the sign guidelines and such. So, I mean, there's a reference to an interior illuminated. No, sometimes it's like we have push throughs that are slightly different.
Yeah, so this takes me back a little bit, but like the face of the sign, like the letters, the logo shouldn't be illuminated, which the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong. That does occasionally happen, but with the push through, it has to have an opaque face and it kind of looks like it's extruded through. And sometimes it just might be how a section of rendering is done as well. But the light needs to kind of creep from behind, which that looks like an internal illumination, but that's one of the things that's allowed.
If you read on the sign drawing, yes, it would be this one.
Okay.
It says it's reverse channel aluminum fabricated circle with coped push through illuminated graphics. And then it talks about the illumination is internal white LED. I wish Bruce could have been here from SignCom to explain this a little bit better than I. But just looking at his section, and to me it looks flat face internal illuminated. It's probably not real different from what you see at Urban's Chop House with the internal illuminated there, but.
So my only comment on this is sign doesn't bother me. I don't like the placement of the sign. I think it has to sit on top.
I agree.
And I think that's that becomes sort of a crown.
I wasn't heavily involved in the design of this. I made an introduction and I'm helping Jason out. He's never made these presentations, and I agree with you that it should sit on top, much like Bonobos does.
I mean, I think we really do. You can see difference along there, but that datum that all those signs sit on needs to be the same. And I think that would be my only comment against the sign.
I don't think Jason would have a problem popping it up either, so.
I don't know what it is. That's.
With it being the last stall to the north, would switching over to like the post on be an option or something that could be more consistent with what's further up? I don't know. Any thoughts on that? That was my main idea.
So it was interesting that this particular project when it came in, we kind of asked, what was going to be the approach? And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, at that time, we talked about it being the variation would actually enhance the project. But there was something that was strong about that horizontal dam, that, that establishment of that elevation and that height and the architecture that you could change, but that data wanted to respect. And
Yeah.
so I think that's right in alignment to Jeff's operation.
Because I mean, I see the crew on the corner, hey, look at me, and then the datum starts, and then Bonobos goes up, and Bonobos goes up. And then we see the same thing there. And then that datum keeps going with the windows on Rossi. So I think it's very doable, and I think it would kind of, and the blue, I think would enhance.
I think it's better sitting on top also.
Yep.
And if that's what we need to do, I'm all for making it better and doing what needs to be done. I don't know that I like the arm, the crew makes sense on the corner, but I've been involved with this project, helping Jason from when it was Shell Space, and it's tough to find right now. And our point of reference is tell people it's next to Bonobos. And as you're cruising down the street, I mean, he's got a window graphic, but as someone is driving down looking for it, I think sitting there kind of in the middle behind the tree, something on an arm or something like the crew would get lost. So I definitely agree with you that it makes sense to be on top and there, and it's got to be visible from vehicular traffic. So.
As a note from the short notes design guidelines, signage needs to be pedestrian oriented and not auto oriented. But I understand where you're coming from, having driven from.
Sure. Okay, sorry, let me rephrase it. It should be more like Bonobos than vehicular, than to be able to be seen by the vehicle, but we're trying to play off of the Bonobos a little bit too.
So the only thing is just trying to. So right now, with the clarification, this would still be the short note guidelines. In the section, it's hard to tell. You know what I mean? But it does have a blue opaque kind of front, so.
Yeah, well, is all the white going to be opaque, or is that the kind of the change?
So it says coped graphics backed with acrylic. I mean, to me, coped graphics pop a little bit, but.
Someone has their hand raised up there.
Oh, sorry. Oh, well, now I gotta.
No, it's where
You gotta swear me in if, unfortunately, if you wanna speak, you gotta.
I can help answer.
Okay, go ahead. Your name,
My
your
name
name.
is Chris Rose, 650 Light and Corporate, 43230 with sign company.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
You're welcome. So as drawn, the code graphics is backed with acrylic. He's saying push through in the description, so there is variation from the drawing versus the actual descriptions. But as drawn, it's the aluminum is routed, so there's negative space, and then there is a translucent white acrylic backer behind that, which the light would emanate through.
Right.
Gotcha.
Which gives a physical review, correct?
So to clarify that can be clarified if we kind of go back and we continue this, that could be clarified, that could be cleaned up. And the push through is something that is acceptable, but this, the interior related is not. That's what we're saying. So,
Does that make sense?
Yes, now can I ask a question? So I understand where everyone is coming from. We want to follow the short north guidelines. How is Urban's and the whiskey bar internally? Is that not short north or?
It's their signage approved or does them as their. And
Fair enough.
Approved, and it's maybe under a different understanding.
Okay,
of the
fair
stuff
enough.
that's gonna be. That's how
I'm
it
asking
is.
because I'm going to be asked, so
And so sometimes those things happen.
sure.
They don't happen again.
I'm just going to relay the message back is all. So.
Caveat, I'm more familiar with Italian villages sides because that's where most of my review has been up
Cool.
until the past couple of months.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get it. We can definitely, if you want to continue to next month, we can get a little more clarification and get a non-internal illuminator. I messaged with Bruce yesterday about this, so I think we can get that taken care of.
Second. Oh, motion to continue.
Most of the things, this application, like one of those, that
Big with that.
I'm not doing it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Signage is not always my strong suit. It happens. It's not everyone's strong suit.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate the help.
Yes. All right, we are going to move on to number 8, which is BB-21-07-021, 184-190 West 2nd Avenue. This application is to replace existing siding on the rear section of the building and install consistent lap siding product. Replace siding which means hardy, the 4-inch smooth lap, hardy smooth trim, and rebuild decorative trim features to match existing window trim. There are multiple trims all over this house or structure. Is it appropriate to unify the trim on the rear? Staff has reviewed photos. Some of the siding needs replaced, but it looks like a majority of it is in good condition. Staff did review the file and found the following regarding the siding. For COA 94-8-12, included restoration of the storefront on the southwest corner of the building, included removal of inappropriate trim and plywood elements. And I've got photos of the previous siding in the staff report, but that doesn't give us any good. I think that we have dropped it in there for you to if the second part. If not, okay, thank you. Sometimes it's difficult to remember what we have done and what was. It's happened a couple times. So staff does recommend approval with the condition that the existing siding is replaced and trying to match existing where it's damaged. Basis for recommendation, City Code 3116.11, standards for alteration, specifically 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
You guys state your name, sir?
Patrick McCarthy?
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Everything to add?
Well, yes, in last count, there were 12 different types of siding on this building. There's been 4 different, I've owned it for the last 15 years and have done nothing with the back. This back part, and for you guys saying it's in great condition, yes, the front, and the 2 sides are in great condition. The back's falling apart, which is what we're planning on doing. The back part itself has 5 different types of siding because it was 3 different additions. And then before I bought it, they had a fire and then part of that got replaced. But I mean, if you look at, this is not in good condition at all. And we just want to replace the entire back so it all matches. Because it's right now, it's not consistent with anything. These windows that have been boarded up have been boarded up since I bought the building, and it's an eyesore. I mean, it's told me it's an eyesore. So finally I decided I wanted to do something about it in order to make the back look good. I like the front, I like the sides, but the back's where all the problems are. And that's the only part we want to do the hardy board in order to make it all consistent. One of these windows these stairs that we call it the stairs that goes nowhere, in the back part, half of the window is covered by a stairs going at an angle. And it just looks like it was not thought out when it was done at all. And we just want to make it look better. This is one of the more historic buildings in in the Victorian village. And we just want to bring it back up to, looking good.
Your statements.
Yes, so it's just the back. It's one of those things that sometimes pictures don't show the entire story because it looks good, but in reality, you're missing details. Feels like that.
I mean, can I throw in there right now, there's 2 raccoons living in the inside of the building because they ate part of the siding and are now living in it. So I got to get rid of them. So, I mean, yeah, you can see by the pictures that it's not in good condition at all. I can take as many pictures as you want. It's falling apart. The wood is brittle.
Because it's been there since 1800s.
So, yes, I love this building. I think it's eclectic. I think the sides that have been addressed are important. I think the back of it is the backdrop. I think you could paint it, you could dress it up, it's really not gonna make a difference. So I guess from a commissioner standpoint, whatever is the best way to improve and maintain the back of that building, we should look into that. And if that's using an alternate material or something like that, that replicates, I'm all for that. That's my perspective.
And I agree. That's why I chose this company is 2 buildings away. They redid the entire building. And that's why I said, that's exactly what I think this should look like, because
If you were asking us to do the front
no,
or the sides
right,
in that type of manner, I would totally
right.
push back. But this back piece in what you're trying to do, I'm all
Yeah,
for
I
it.
mean, people call it the Harry Potter house because it looks like it folds into each other.
I like the breaks.
Yeah, I appreciate you telling us about the story of this edition, that edition. And you can see there's different profiles, we changed vertical to horizontal. So I guess I have no problem also switching the materiality.
Yeah, the profile's all on the front. The back's all solid.
But I think that what we're saying is where I see a third that used to be addition and I have a corner board that separates that, I see that corner board still maintaining a presence, only the new, so I could see that it's 3 things.
Okay.
I don't want to see one
Yeah.
siding and then.
Exactly.
I think that's what we're saying.
That we needed to kind of maintain.
Yes, but, and I do like this one picture right here. This window that's been boarded up and it's all drywalled inside and has been since I bought it. Am I allowed to take that out?
I would kind of like to see that detail replicated, even though because many times on our architectural facades, it's not a window, but it's filled in with shutters or something to replicate that
So,
something was there.
Can I put a window back in there?
If
Yeah, because this whole back part of the business is dark and I'd love to put a window in there.
Quite frankly, I think we would all agree, an elevation that shows what you're doing on that back wall, adding a window, this is gonna be this is gonna be this is gonna be this, would help us.
All right.
I think it would help Kimberly and staff understand what you're trying to do.
So you know where the brakes are and you see what's,
Yes.
okay.
Absolutely. We're all in favor of what you're trying to do. Clarifying that would truly help us out.
All right.
And we absolutely, a window, you want to put a window back there and it's one of the windows. that's-
Yeah, I heard the whole window discussion.
That too.
All right.
So,
So one thing I was just going to ask too, as far as that clarification, is sometimes when the siding gets attached, it's kind of proud of the existing trims. So the existing window trims are probably not going to be replaced, or will they be replaced?
They're only going to replace with wood that if it's, because a lot of those window things are deteriorating because they weren't painted before I got it. And, you know, we're only going to replace what we have to, but we're going to keep the same design and everything else. Yes. Correct, correct.
So do we want to just go ahead and do a motion to continue to include some of these other things now that you know there's an opportunity to be able to get the window in and to be able to get clarification of that elevation?
Yeah, I want to make sure that I keep what you guys want as far as, because this will show 3 different editions from the back and you want to keep that. All right.
and your new window.
All right,
That's pretty clear. Just a drawing elevation.
yeah,
Okay, so notes, things of that nature.
yeah, perfect.
Motion to continue this application.
Second. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Great.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Gina. One more for me, folks.
Yes, but I don't think in 10 minutes we can get into the applications. All right, number 9 is BB-21-07-022 711 North High Street. This application is to remove the existing sign, install a new sign to next to the existing sign. The proposed sign would use the existing brackets measuring at 10 feet 3 inches wide by 36 inches high. The proposed sign to have illuminated white letters and logo. Commissioners at the business meeting wanted to know if the existing sign was illuminated. HPO staff was able to locate the original COA, which was DB-19-09-007, which shows the approval of the building sign. As discussed with our last signage application, internal illumination is appropriate. And I did want to pose the question, is it appropriate to remove the building sign and replace it with a tenant sign? The staff recommends approval of the application with any clarifications or interim modifications made by the commission. Basis for staff recommendation are the short design guidelines, specifically the general guidelines and the wall sign guidelines.
Thank you. Let's state your name, sir.
Chris Rose.
That's very good. Do you tell the number of the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. To add and kind of talk us through it.
Sure. Originally, the building did not have a main tenant, and ownership wanted to have signage on the building. It was named the Lincoln Building per their direction, based on the, I believe, distance to Lincoln Street. And they now have sold and filled the space with the main tenant, which is Upstart, and they have wanted to basically do a face change to the existing sign that would be there. So when we're saying a new sign, it's actually just a new face. The cabinet and the rest of the existing elements to the sign would be remaining, and we would be fabricating a new face that would be representative of the tenant, which is the main tenant of the building, which would be Upstart. So I guess much like Crew Stadium will now be known as Lower.com Field, we're trying to have the Lincoln Building known as the Upstart Building, or Upstart as shown in the drawing. It will still have the same characteristics of the existing sign in terms of the faux finish, as well as the push-through lettering that is currently displayed. You're welcome.
I just have one question, which I think I raised at the business meeting. The existing sign, is it illuminated where it says the Lincoln Building?
It is.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Just kind of a little bit of history on this one, guys. It's, if I remember correctly, this was 7-Eleven at one time when we were renderings and everything. Then it became a situation where we were looking at, signage, or signage came back. And I think that we were looking at trying to deal or address the upper floor tenants through a directory approach. So the building would have a approach to your name. And then however the tenant spaces for second floor above would actually have some kind of interior directory or something of that nature, because presence of the location of those signs were challenging. I'm just kind of thinking about some of our past conversations. So, again.
So what I can remember about this, I'm old, is when they came in, there was just a bunch of stuff. And the upper floors wanted to have signs and they wanted to do all this stuff. I'm old school. I think it's the Lincoln Building. It should stay the Lincoln Building, but I understand that things change.
Sure.
And ownership changes. So as far as I'm concerned, the Lincoln Building goes. we have a placard for that signage. If this thing replaces it and it's within guidelines of what it's supposed to be, it's upstart today, it could be downstart tomorrow, I'm okay. I don't think we can hold on. Now, if they were trying to do something totally different, I would have it totally different.
And I would agree with you, Jack. I mean, Jeff, in terms of the 7-Eleven. I'm sorry. And Jeff, the 7-Eleven, well, that was there, that placard that kind of stayed there. I think our last iteration, there was a series of stacked.
Yeah, they were
Stacked. That's what I.
different colors, different shapes, different everything.
Completely. It
And
was a series of stacked elements.
This is clean, I like it.
So that's, want to make sure that clarification.
Question, what floors is Upstart on in this building? They are one of many tenants, correct?
They are the main tenant now. So I do not have an answer as to the floor exactly. I believe it's the 6th floor, however.
Okay. And I raise that point just because I have kind of concern that Jeff raises here is that I think of this also as the Lincoln Building. And there are numerous tenants in a lot of these buildings on High Street. And so I wonder at what point do we say Klarna also is a main tenant in the anthropology building? Do they get a sign on?
But I guess if they have a big pocketbook and they're gonna rename the building, I think we design signage for this place.
I missed that point then. So you said this.
This is ownership decision that they want it to be known
So
as
there's
Upstart, not the Lincoln Building anymore.
Okay.
So I mean, that's the difference. If they were all trying to.
Right.
We shut that down at the beginning of this process because 3 floors up, we were gonna have an illuminated side, 4 floors up, we were gonna have an underside, and then someone wanted to do something on the roof that you could read it from a plane coming.
My second point, and tagging off of what Connors was saying with respect to a directory approach, so.
And I think we gotta give this guy a break because he really did help us. with the vocabulary of sign. That's
Well, I was hoping for administrative approval, so this will be a great break. If
That's all
this works. Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Say aye.
I,
Any opposed?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was different. It was different.
Yeah. yeah, exactly.
When I walk in this building, I see the directory of everybody.
Yeah. I'm out of here, kids. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
You get it.
Okay, we are moving on to our second to last application, which is number 10. It is 21-21-07-023. This is 292 to 296 West First Avenue. This application is to replace the existing vinyl siding with new single point siding, platform, a 4-inch smooth slab. Duplicates the size, shape, and texture of the existing materials. Wood and door frames would remain built out to maintain the appearance. Repainting and repairing trim around the windows and front doors. The color would be that proper red. Replace 2 non-original steel front doors and storm doors with the true benchmark fiberglass doors. Storm doors are not being replaced, and the transom is to remain. Replace vinyl shutters, black panel shaker wood shutter, color and green racks of dark walnut. Painting that repaired stucco color to be formulated. Gray. HBO staff does not support the installation of vinyl siding. We remove that once they explore if there's plastic siding that may also be historic in its own right. Vinyl siding was approved in September 8th of 1983. The Historic Preservation Office no longer supports such a siding material as it does not comply with City Code 1611 standards for alteration. Per that code, the exterior providing of a structure is shown consistent with the original material used on the property. Staff does also not support the original non-functional shutters. Staff does support the proposed colors, and I will also note, because I didn't just add it here, we typically request that front doors throughout all of the historic district are wood. So Staff recommends splitting the application into two portions, A and B. A, recommending approval for painting the trim on the windows, front doors, and replacement of the non-traditional doors, for the wood, and painting the repaired stucco. The applicant should submit updated product sheet for the wood front doors to staff aggregation certificate, and splitting it into B. The staff recommends continuing the replacement of siding until the state of the original siding is determined. If the siding does need replaced, then a more appropriate material should be investigated and the siding and trim details reinstated. Basis for recommendation of City Code 3116.11, standards for alteration. Staff recommendation.
And just, Kimberly, can you just clarify, item A was, you have painting of the wood, you have the stucco, and you also have to do.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, with the caveat, the front doors need to be wood.
And B was the variance for signing.
Yes.
Okay. And you go ahead and say your names, swear you in.
Sean Bloodsacker.
Caitlin Bloodsacker.
Do you agree to tell the truth, nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
All right. How are you guys today?
Not too bad.
Good, good. So just some background. My husband and I purchased this property about 2 to 3 months ago. And when we acquired it, it did have an existing code violation on it for the masonry. So we did work quickly to get that repaired. And then we would just like to continue to move forward to improve the property. It has always been a rental property, and we are planning to own it indefinitely, and it will continue to be a rental property. So just FYI and some background.
And just to give even more background on the property itself, it sits on 0.03 acres, doesn't have any yard. It practically sits in the backyard of another property. Kind of put bluntly, it's not some grand Neil Avenue brick home. It is a utilitarian space where, it was used for housing. However, we were trying to make it look nice with budget in mind. And so we are trying to update the exterior of the property so that it looks as nice as possible, but with budget in mind. And so our proposals that we put forward, we think that, I guess the city code thing, that's not been brought to our attention in terms of what that number is or what that information states, but the siding and the front doors, we do believe they fall within the guidelines that are set forth in the Victorian Village handbook. So the requirements, as stated in the Victorian Village handbook for vinyl siding, we meet all of those. It is a like-for-like replacement. We aren't looking to replace it with something else. It's what's there currently. As mentioned earlier, it does appear that it was the asbestos shingle siding prior to that. We've been able to do some investigation there. It's not in salvageable shape. I mean, you put thousands of nails into it and it's not going to be in a position to be recreated. So we were looking to move forward with that vinyl siding. Like I said, it's a like-for-like replacement. We believe that the siding we propose matches the Victorian Village guidelines, and the door that we proposed, we're not aware of anywhere in the Victorian Village guidelines where it states that it must be wood. And so we believe that the item that we proposed matches the Victorian Village guidelines in terms of appearance, and we'd like to move forward with that as well.
Kimberly, can you just try to help us just a little bit? Some thoughts about, one would be the door. Is that a recommendation in terms of?
So that has been standard throughout all 5 of the commissions. The Historic Preservation Office has been requiring those front doors to be wood. It is not stated in guidelines, but all the guidelines for both Italian and Victorian were done in the 70s, and we are aware that we're fully updated, but we're working on unified guidelines, and that is a very long, very thorough process, which isn't relevant now.
Okay. Would you be able to just kind of reference some of the aesthetic of the door in terms of the aesthetic is fine, it's just more material?
It's more material, yes.
Very helpful. right? The other one is, to help us out is like for like.
So it would be like for like whatever the original material is.
Not the current condition of the home in terms of siding and on that we see. It's more like for like in terms of the original
Yes.
structure. Right, that's the clarification.
Yes.
An accurate depiction or representation of what's indicated.
Yes, and I will note, if we want to review something in terms of monetary, that has to be done on the appeal.
Right? That would be the hardship. So
Yes, or well, hardship financial, but
Okay. Additional clarifications of these comments.
Well, I know that vinyl is in the guidelines, but that hasn't been proven in a while, I'm assuming. Has that been phased out by the HPO?
yes, I can think of only one instance. I know that vinyl was approved, and that was a special case in German Village. That was one of the first German Village meetings I attended, which we did very memorable.
And just for that standpoint too, that's why I was trying to understand that, because every time since I've been on, it's been an investigation of that vinyl siding and the materiality and the condition of those materials that are underneath the vinyl. And kind of an exploration of that. There's been some engagement. For a year, we couldn't have that engagement, obviously, but now some engagement with HPO staff, being able to kind of see those conditions and such. Obviously, there's an inconvenience associated with being able to take some of that, but being able to give a good palette of understanding of that, kind of working through.
Yes.
You guys haven't done it yet.
No, we haven't.
Okay.
Not done, but staff would be willing to set up a site visit. I am still staffing 2 commissions, so it does make it challenging. And if any of the commissioners would like to attend as well, that is open.
That would be very helpful. Okay.
You said have investigated the material.
Yeah, so we lifted some of the vinyl siding panels, and then you could see underneath there, of course, it's already set up for vinyl siding, so it has the foam behind it. And then beneath that, you could lift and you could see what appeared to be that asbestos shingle siding.
Tell the condition of it.
It looked deteriorated, which would make sense as to why it was probably replaced to begin with. But certainly we didn't expose an entire side, nor would I probably want to. But yeah.
Did you look under the asbestos siding to see if there was any wood or they just kind of substrate?
So I guess we didn't look further beyond that. We didn't want to deconstruct too much, but
I will let the caveat, I haven't been staffing Victorian Village terribly long, but I've been with them for the past couple of months. Over in Italian Village, what sometimes you'll find is that you'll have the vinyl siding and then you'll have the asbestos siding behind that. And then underneath that, you'll have the original wood siding. So there's
okay.
layers kind of build up as, you know, or the original siding may have gotten damaged slightly, or the homeowner wanted to kind of go with the trend of what the current siding was. And that just kind of add layers to it.
Okay.
Maybe a possibility of being able to kind of work with HPO staff and kind of doing some of that exploratory.
I mean, I'm definitely down. We want to work with everyone.
yes,
And
100%.
we have, I think during this process, hopefully demonstrated that we tried. Like, for instance, we had a window that's in a bathroom we would like to remove. It's just a source for moisture and things like that. Staff recommended that not happen. And we said, okay, we're willing to compromise on that, certainly. So we want to work with people, but also want to see what is the end result. Let's say we find wood siding. What does that mean? If it's just asbestos, what does that mean? And if it means that we'd have to completely replace it or try to restore the wood siding, we're not going to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just not in the budget. So it's just, this is an investment property. We want to have it be nice. We are doing cosmetic repairs on the inside to make it look nice. We want to have nice tenants there, but we also have to be cognizant that, I mean, it is an investment. We have to be realistic about what we can spend on this property. And so if it means that we just need to repair the existing vinyl siding, keep asking for, one panel at a time to keep it functioning, I guess that would be the outcome. So 100% willing to work with it, but what would that final outcome be? And I guess that's what I don't know.
And I do think that vinyl can look I think it can look really nice and I think it could look really good. And like my husband said, unfortunately, if, we aren't able to do that, we are just gonna have to replace piece by piece and it's not in great shape and it's gonna be an eyesore in the neighborhood and which is unfortunate. And we do wanna make it look good. We wanna make it look pretty. That's our goal. We don't want to have an ugly property in the neighborhood. So.
Yeah. This isn't her full-time job. She's a teacher.
Yeah.
And I'm just an engineer. So we're not some big corporation that's coming through
It's just
and
us.
flipping a property. We live on Second Avenue. This house is on First. We're over in Harrison West.
Yeah.
We actually bought it from her coworker's parent that had it for 40 years. Mentioned that they were trying to sell it. And it just kind of came up that we just live close by. So, we're trying to do the best we can, but also have to be realistic of what's possible.
Yeah.
Kimberly, what's staff's recommendation on their proposal? I apologize.
It's okay. Staff's recommendation was for the siding is to investigate what the state of the original siding is. And then move forward from there.
Okay. And then with respect to the doors, it would be replacing it with wood doors.
Yes, and then
Right.
the staff is okay with the paint as well for the trim as well as the stucco.
What is the preservation sort of guideline when we have the asbestos? Because obviously we can't restore the asbestos. If that truly is just on the substrate,
Right.
staff would be okay with going back over the top of the.
I would have to ask, asbestos siding hasn't come up too often, so I don't have an answer of what has been done. 'Cause I really don't remember, because there's been only a few cases. And the one that came up on North Fourth over in Italian, they ended up taking it all off and restoring the original siding, because the original siding was still in pretty good condition, with the exception of a couple spots that needed to be replaced.
Because I guess I would be fine with if we did a site visit, found out what's under the asbestos,
Mhm.
and then if we came back and needed to go over the top of it, as long as that fits within the preservation guideline, which I think it would improve the property. But also with the, not with the line.
So just kind of thinking about it, it seems like we should follow that kind of. There's not we can't provide an end solution or we can't provide an end outlook on it right now, right? But it seems like I think the best thing is to do is to try to mirror the process. And at least have the information documented in the right, so that investigative work. Dealing with HPO staff, allow Kimberly and the balance of the HPO team to be able to evaluate based upon what they see. And then being able to make a recommendation and then come back and then we try to come to some resolution. Like it seems like that's the right process.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We would
totally
love
understand.
to show you guys the property for sure.
And more than willing, and I'm sure someone's gonna be more than willing to do a sneak a peek if we could.
Okay. It'll have to be, 2 people, because we can't have a forum.
I understand.
So, and I will note, we continued applications get a week from today in order to submit stuff. That's a tight time to get a site visit in, but if you want to submit any other information at that time, or at least an email saying you want to be on next month's agenda, that would be appreciated. I've got to coordinate with my supervisor, because he'll probably want to come out, as well as the gentleman here and perhaps Commissioner Hisson. And that might take a little bit more than a week, but as long as we get out and we see it before the business meeting, that would be.
And I do just want to let you know, because I am a teacher, I have summers off. So like I am available to meet whenever you are. So I can make anything work.
Okay.
So-
We're working on getting our newest member trained.
Okay.
Staffing to commission.
Okay.
Okay.
All of the schedules are crazy. So I'm going to try my best and maybe something next week. We get out there and.
Okay.
Do a site visit.
Okay.
I just wanted to make one comment.
Yeah.
And from Kimberly's perspective, Kimberly, this one bothers me because this one doesn't have a porch. Doesn't have anything to protect the doors.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of nervous in terms of going back and recommending the wood again. Just from a long-term perspective.
So if you want to make a motion to include because of that reason, you can. I mean, for all of the properties, I'm recommending wood doors. So if there's ones that you find that wood is not appropriate, we need to specifically state them for these reasons.
Okay, I don't think that I think as of today, I don't think we want to split the A. So we want to just keep them together, have a little bit better understanding, because you guys are not going to move forward with the A. It's not like the property. If we don't move forward with the A items, which are going to be the doors, the stuff going on, and that is pain and such that will happen after the work is complete, all right?
For the siding?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yes, I believe you're right in saying that. Like, it would be nice to have a resolution on the siding
Mhm.
before continuing with the other work. That being said, let's say we can't move forward with the siding, we would want to do the doors, the trim and paint and everything, yeah. So I mean, if you could approve it now, if you wanted to, and then we could approve that secondary, knowing we, at least work-wise, probably wouldn't
It
move
would
forward
probably
with
be
it.
beneficial to keep it together just for right now.
Okay.
If you're not trying to move forward, we're trying to kind of, secure the property or something of that nature, that it would be better probably just to try to keep it together.
Yeah, plus we don't have a forum.
Yeah.
Well, no, because there's only 5 seated.
Oh, sorry, okay.
So yes.
Oh, there you go.
If it was not a quorum, I would.
Right, okay. I thought for purposes of you involved.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you,
so
sir.
thank you.
Thank you. So it'd be okay to keep them together and then motion to continue and then you guys will really feel sad. We'll get through it.
Okay.
Would we have to come back for the, if it was just the painting? Would we have to come, like, if during the site visit, I don't know, something was decided, would we have to come back if then we just needed the painting at that point?
So if something was
Does that make
decided with
sense?
the site visit, most likely we will probably come together, just kind of form,
Uh-huh.
kind of talk those items through.
Okay.
And at that time, you'll be able to kind of discern if you want to move, if you want to break this apart.
Mhm.
The commission is not, so to speak, comes to a resolution of wanting to move forward with your proposition
Mhm.
that may vary from recommendation, Rachel staff, et cetera. Then we could probably dissect the work at that time.
So
Okay.
if we do the site visit and commissioners present, there will
Yeah.
not be enough to be a quorum, so.
Right.
yeah, Vote on it, so it'll need to come back in front of everybody.
Okay.
Because for public meeting laws and reasons, so
Okay.
I can't just up and staff approve it.
Yeah.
But we can go out there and determine that, the original site is in bad condition. We
Mhm.
talk about how to move forward, that'll be reflected.
Okay.
At the business meeting, and we're gonna get this done in the business meeting. So, but if that does not get moved to staff approval at the business meeting, which I don't think it will, it's a little bit bigger of a project, but it'll be reflected in the staff report for the hearing as well, that we have gotten through, this is what's been discussed, this is what's been decided, this is what staff recommendation is.
Mhm.
So motion to continue.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then Kimberly, you just said to shoot you an email.
Yeah, if you can shoot to the Victorian Village Commission,
Uh-huh.
because I don't joke when I say my personal inbox.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Okay.
So if you get it there, Stephanie Kensler has been helping, which you may have to exchange some.
Yes,
emails with,
yes.
but She's been keeping me on track. And
Okay.
if she sends me something for questions and she follows up, it gets lost in my inbox if it comes to me, unfortunately. So the BBC email is your best bet.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to our last item of the evening, which is BB 21 07 024. This is 910 Denison Avenue, which is our only conceptual item. This is to construct a new second and third floor addition to the existing one-story dental office to make a 2.5-story, 34 feet 5 inches high, and then emulate the scale of the single-family homes. New doors and windows would be Hello Lifestyle series and 104 existing windows and doors to be replaced with snack lighting to be added to all exterior doors. New exterior materials to include hardy plank wrap siding, trim and cobblestone. The new roof would be on spraying asphalt shingle and state grade and slope. The property would need to be rezoned from the ARLD to ARO. Plantings and screening would be added to the parking lot. Commissioners add the business meeting wanted clarification on where the proposed lights were going. Staff has updated the drawings which were included, and the applicant also added some clarifications to what streets the elevation drawings are facing. For the file, the structure was built in 1985. The neighboring house is only 2 stories tall, and the proposed structure is 2.5 stories. So staff does recommend that height be lowered to kind of fit in that a little bit better. Staff also included the 1922 Sanborn map, which shows that this used to have a police station at the corner, as well as a 2-story residence at the rear of the lot. I do want to pose, is it appropriate to change the building from commercial to mixed use? Commissioners should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for a future hearing. Please pardon the IPC there. Staff reports were done the day after the other styles. So something that had to come through at some point. The basis for recommendations 3116.12, the standards for new construction.
This is just conceptual. Right?
Yes.
State your name.
Heidi Bolliard.
Swear you
Yes.
I agree to tell the truth, you don't tell the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. We're all here.
Okay, so yeah, right now it's a dental office and the owner of the dental office, Katia Yanklevich, she would like to add apartment above it. So they want to do 2 apartments above it, one for themselves and then one to be able to rent. So that's their goal. And then they were just trying to do something that didn't necessarily completely match the neighborhood, but at least complement the neighborhood without being too modern with a flat roof and things like that. Because I know a lot of the newer construction has flat roofs, and especially when it's mixed use. So
So let's do this.
yeah,
Yes. Have any comments or thoughts and suggestions that may help the applicant kind of continue to develop this?
I just had a couple of questions, and I raised these at the business meeting. On page 6 of 16, how would they access those doors? Those are on the 2nd floor where it says the left elevation, which would be on Denison.
so the one has a concrete ramp and a concrete landing going up to it.
Okay,
So you can just barely see it on the bottom of the elevation there. And then the other has a concrete landing as well. So it's pretty close to grade, so it's just a small concrete step up to the door.
Steve, I think that the left elevation is the Denison elevation.
right.
And then with the comment about if most of those homes being like 2-story, like most of them are 2 stories, but then they have living space in their attics. So that's kind of what we were trying to mimic with this.
So I got some thoughts, some questions, and some suggestions. This was a very, very interesting project.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, well, and the existing brick box is like, how do we work with the existing?
Interesting thing is the things that constrain us the most could be the most successful. So, some thoughts, just think about this project as maybe 1 addition versus 2 additions. So right now, there's an addition on the top of the box, then there's also an addition, so to speak. just the stair and entries. I wonder if there was a way to end to end, it would look like one addition. So there's a, and I think like there's a warehouse, so there's kind of this brick element, and then there's another element that serves as that entry, that beacon, that kind of signifier, but how do those two vary? If it's up and over, I don't know if it's side by side, but just two things versus three things. Just talking. What happens with the gable roof? I completely understand the gable and trying to, so appreciate that thought about kind of fitting into the context. But I think the brick element is just scale is causing the roofs to kind of look more suburban.
Okay.
Just because of the scale that it's responding to. And not necessarily your aesthetic, it's not that, it's what the brick box is giving you. So we're kind of balancing these existing conditions to some degree.
Right.
So I wonder if a flat roof condition may be more beneficial, just a thought, something to explore. Because I think it starts to potentially help the amount of roof that's exposed, the pitch, versus the width of the mast, things of that nature. The amount of glass, so right now you're responding to the existing openings, and then the new openings are responding to possibly the interior. So I wonder if there's a balance of, I wonder if you could modify the existing buildings and the openings to some degree or a portion to again be able to come and the end result to look like one building was this, and then there was an addition that kind of creates that sense of entry or marker or signification of welcoming. Just a thought. I wonder if the project could benefit from a series of just quick massing studies that just maybe, simple massing, ring tone, simple studies to just says, here's 3 different ways of being able to get the program to fit and stay within that constraint of 2.5, and what it looks like with a flat roof. What is it like if you pick this piece up? Just something simple, that may help us land on that. And then you sort of speak in the ball rolling, maybe those other ideas. So maybe it's massing and with a little expression of windows or penetration, just opening sizes where they need to be located to help the program, but not necessarily all of the pieces. That may that may help us kind of go with you. Like, we don't want you to go to the level of completion,
Right.
For the conceptual, because there may be a couple different ways to do this. And that just may be beneficial, saves you time, and kind of allows us to make our work plan possible. Just a very short one.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess one of the things I saw too is a lot of materiality going on that I don't really feel we see around in the neighborhood. So I like Sean's comment about trying to look at turning it into just one addition and make that start to play with the materiality there, and then the textures that would come back out of that. And then across the street is the apartment building with the flat roof. So I do think there is something that could come about in a 2.5 story addition here with a flat roof, because the roof right now is homeless. It's just a massive expansive shingle. So if it does need to stay pitched, I think we need to look at breaking that up in different types of ways. And then the windows, I think, are a little bit off in terms of the historic scale. We were talking earlier about skinning up some of the windows to kind of more fit in with the neighborhood, and then how they're balanced into the elevation as well.
Yeah.
I know you're probably responding to programming.
Well, and also like the brick windows on the front elevation, which is on the First Avenue. Those are existing windows, so we were trying to work with that existing proportion. We didn't want to go with a bigger, skinnier, or like a taller, skinnier window. We did go with the taller window that's in that center section, just to give it a little bit more proportion of the neighborhood.
Yeah, that bay, to me, doesn't feel overactive. And, you know, if that could come all the way down, maybe, and overbuild on the first floor, and then feel more like the single family bays, but right now, with it being on the second floor, it feels very sort of out of character to me.
We were trying to use that to kind of disguise a little bit with what was going on with the windows not being symmetrical.
Those are something that I saw.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I appreciate this and I am excited about this opportunity when I go to the dentist here, but nonetheless, I've always thought over the years, when you think about the historical nature of this being a filling station back in the day, this does appear a little odd the way it currently has been, and so I think this addition, there's a very unique opportunity here, and you know, I think you all are on the right path with respect to the way you guys are envisioning doing this with this space.
In terms of the materials, you had mentioned that it was too many different materials, but really it's just three materials, the existing brick and then horizontal siding. And then like
I
the,
guess when I look at the color renderings,
but the color, so it's the different color, throwing
Yeah.
that different color in there.
that
Okay.
feels very suburban to me, where, yes, we do have just the siding brick, but in looking around the neighborhood, I'm not seeing multicolored painted siding other than an eclectic.
I've seen it quite a bit because I spent a lot of time driving around the area, looking at looking at newer projects that are multi-family and taking pictures just to get a good feel for what would be approved. So I saw several projects where they were kind of breaking some of the massing up with different materials and different colors and things like that.
And I mean, to that point, I mean, it may be a simplification of the masking, and then maybe amping up the painting, or maybe, you know, vice versa. I think you know, so maybe having some of those reference images, being able to maybe talk through them, you know, in the next meeting, possibly too as well. And, you know, that may be a good reference alongside of the simple massing studies, you know. And again, I only suggested the massing studies from just kind of combing them down because of the effort. It's didn't want you to provide multiple different versions at a level of completeness,
Right, right.
because one or two of those may have right merit, but you know, so it gives you some allow that flexibility of us being able to kind of, you know, work alongside of you.
Right, right. Yeah.
Great opportunity. Great opportunity. And I think to your point is, you know, thinking about responding to what's existing, and then how do you balance that to what's new. Like, so that's why I was saying that I think that we would be open to a little bit of modification of the existing windows to balance out some of the other things. So there may be a need to kind of do a little, you know, work down below in order to get that sort of that harmony, you know, across the entire project. And don't let the existing, so to speak, guide you too much.
Right. Yeah, well, they were trying to keep the existing intact as much as possible because it is an operating dental office. They're not looking to shut down their office to do construction to make it work with the other portions of the structure.
Understand.
Okay. All right.
Anything else?
I don't think so. I wish we would have had more clarification earlier. Just on like doing massing studies and stuff, because we had called initially to find out what should we put together for like this meeting, because we were trying to get as close as, like, they want to move forward pretty quickly. So this puts us another month behind. So it's just a little bit frustrating that we didn't have better advice up front. So.
I don't always know what the commissioners are
Yeah.
gonna say.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know Thomas did an amazing job just being the only person at the business meeting. the
Yeah.
Questions he asked, so.
Yeah, well, and that was just really additional information that he was requesting, so we just didn't, like, it didn't give us much direction at the business meeting of,
Yeah, we.
so do we need any?
Everybody
Yeah.
to come, but, you know, they are all volunteers and they've got their jobs and different schedules and things do pop up last minute.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
we try our best and hopefully, you know, next month is gonna be better at the business meeting.
Completely apologize. I had every intention to be here. So, but we're in the same boat, from that standpoint. So, down commissioners, everything has been kind of a whirlwind the last 2 weeks. So,
Yeah.
just appreciate the dialogue and hopefully we can work together. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the direction.
Thank you so much.
It's good to see you guys in person.
Anything else? If you have any old business? Oh, yes. That's some shit. Oh, we have some things about positioning.
So voting should hopefully happen at the August hearing. We do need most everybody there. It's not fair to tap people that aren't present to be certain positions. So I know Jeffrey should probably have been here for that as well. But we will need a chair and you know, if Sean's going to want to move over to that or to hold on to the current position. And I have not been in the place of staffing the meeting that we've held elections. Yeah, so I need to look into what I need to do and what needs to happen. But I know you just had elections not too terribly long ago. Somebody has to get nominated and you have to
That's right.
vote on it.
I just can't recall if we did that via, I mean, this is where it gets a little weird because of remote. I'm making email, things of that nature. So I'm not sure per bylaws, can we have that dialogue amongst all of us via email to establish that call for individuals, and then once we get together at the business meeting or hearing, be able to formalize the actual vote related to them? I guess I just.
I recall Jack brought it up.
Okay.
In the meeting, in the actual public meeting, not the business meeting. And we talked through the information involved.
We did all together.
All together.
That's the same, that same year. Okay.
I'm going to look into if we can do that business meeting.
Right.
Or not, but with the business meeting, like we need everybody to be there. And I don't think Jeffrey can typically make the business meetings in person.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's the challenge.
Yes, and I mean, he's not here, so like I don't necessarily want to call him out, but
For sure.
I know in person, it's very hard to make for some people. Even virtually with other commissions, some people have that standing commitment, so they haven't meeting at that time. So I will talk with Jamie as to when it happens, and we did a fantastic job this time leading everybody through and facilitating the dialogue and making sure we weren't talking with the speakers and having too much back and forth, so. But I will get clarification, so start kind of thinking, you know, who with what position. Staff is working with the Shorten Association to seat our last two positions, and I know it can take a while. We get them only so far, and then the mayor's office kind of takes over the other portions, so. We do what we can, and it is what it is, and we hope people get appointed in a reasonable time frame, so we can be fully staffed, so we don't have as many issues with forums or everybody having to do this. Water commission's fully staffed with 7 people. We'll get there, hopefully, sooner than later. And then, as everybody knows, I'll be your staff person moving forward. So you will have a familiar face, you're not just swapping around with somebody else to play the computer with. And you're stuck with me for probably a couple of years. I'm excited because I get to learn what's been across this North High Street in Italian Village, and this kind of helps because This is not the same as Italian building, it's the same set of guidelines and the set of buildings like that. And just happens to be my favorite, so I've been a little excited because there are a couple grand buildings in Italian village, but nothing with the turrets. Maybe a couple. I really like turrets, so it's just kind of like, oh, I can just say business here. I'll miss them too. I do believe that. Announcements. Business.
Motion to adjourn. Adjourn. Thank you. Thank you for helping me with the cadence there. It's just-
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Did wonderful.
Thank you.
On track.
So for me,